Lieutenant Marcus Hale had been a soldier long enough to appreciate silence. The human outpost on the edge of Valari space was usually anything but quiet. Constant hum of power generators, distant drills of recruits, and the occasional argument between mechanics and pilots. But tonight the base slept. Only the soft vibration of the ventilation system filled his quarters. He had just finished cleaning his rifle, a nightly ritual that kept his hands busy and his mind calm. Marcus placed the weapon back into its case and stretched. It was past midnight, and he considered finally getting some rest. Then he heard it, a sound too soft to be mechanical. A faint whisper, like fabric brushing against metal. His instincts sharpened immediately. Marcus's hand moved to the sidearm at his belt. He stood completely still, listening. Another sound followed. Not machinery. Not a soldier. A voice, human. Marcus turned sharply, weapon raised. His eyes adjusted to the dim glow of the emergency light strip above the door. At first, he thought exhaustion was playing tricks on him. But no, someone was standing inside his chamber. She was tall, slim, and cloaked in faint silver light. Her skin shimmered faintly under the glow, marked by delicate patterns like glowing tattoos that shifted with every breath. Her eyes were large, luminous, and full of something he had not expected. Fear. "Who the hell?" Marcus started, his voice low and sharp. "Identify yourself." The figure swayed unsteadily, then stepped fully into the room. Now he saw her face clearly. Recognition hit him like a punch. He had seen her in broadcasts, diplomatic hollows, and the reports his commanders studied carefully. Princess Illyra, heir to the Valari Empire, daughter of the queen who had nearly gone to war with humanity only 2 years ago. Marcus froze. Every soldier in the Terran forces knew her image. She was a symbol of the Empire, always presented as untouchable, perfect, and far above mortals. Yet here she stood in his chamber, her breathing heavy and uneven, and she whispered, her voice trembling, "Can you please clean me, human?" Marcus blinked. For a moment he wondered if this was some strange Valari phrase mistranslated into English. But then he saw it, the faint glowing residue smeared across her arms and neck. It pulsed like liquid light, and the closer she came, the more he noticed her expression tighten in pain. She staggered. Marcus caught her by instinct, holstering his pistol as he steadied her weight. Her body felt unnaturally cold, almost fragile, like she might break apart if he held her too tightly. "What happened to you?" he asked, lowering his voice. "How did you even get in here?" Her eyes half closed, but she forced herself to speak. "Poison, betrayal, my own guards. They use toxin from the deep worlds. Valari medicine. Cannot cleanse it." She coughed, the glowing residue spreading faintly across her neck. "But humans, your methods are different. That is why I came." Marcus's soldier's brain tried to process the absurdity. The princess of an empire had just walked into his quarters asking for help. Not into the medical wing, not to her own people. To him. "You need a doctor," Marcus said firmly. "Our medics—" "No," she interrupted, gripping his uniform with surprising strength for someone so weak. "If they know I live, the assassins will try again. My people will silence me. Please, only you." Marcus's chest tightened. He had heard whispers about Valari politics, ruthless and merciless. Weakness in their royal court was exploited instantly, but to hear it from her lips with terror in her voice was something else. "Lieutenant Hale," she whispered, her glowing eyes focusing on him. "If you report me, I am dead. If you hide me, perhaps I live. I beg you." He had no orders for this situation. No training manual prepared him for an alien princess collapsing in his room in the middle of the night. Yet his instincts screamed one thing. She wasn't lying. The glow on her skin was spreading faster now, creeping up her neck toward her jawline. "Damn it," Marcus muttered, moving quickly. He guided her to his bunk, laying her down gently. She trembled, clutching the blanket with delicate hands. His medical kit was standard issue. Human soldiers were trained to survive on worlds where almost everything wanted them dead. The Valari might rely on advanced biopods and healing chambers, but humans carried rugged, reliable tools for battlefield emergencies. Marcus pulled out his scanner and antiseptic foam. "I don't know if this will work on your physiology," he warned. "But it's all I've got," she gave a weak smile. "Humans always find ways, that is why I chose you." He worked carefully, cleaning the glowing substance from her skin with sterilized cloths and sealing what looked like burns with foam. The residue hissed faintly when touched by human medicine, and she flinched, but her breathing eased little by little. As he worked, Marcus studied her closely. Without the glowing toxins, she looked less like a divine figure from broadcasts and more like a person. Scared, vulnerable, lost. Minutes stretched into an hour. By the end, most of the residue was gone and her skin had returned to its natural silvery tone. Marcus wrapped her in a thermal blanket. "Your vitals are stabilizing," he said, checking the scanner. "But you need rest. And I still need answers." Elira's eyes opened slowly. The fear had softened, replaced by exhaustion and trust. "There are traitors in my court," she whispered. "I escaped through a service portal. I hid on one of your supply transports. It was the only way. I knew. Humans would not abandon me." Marcus frowned. "That's a hell of a gamble, princess." Her lips curved faintly. "Valari gamble with power. Humans gamble with survival. I prefer the latter." She shivered again and Marcus adjusted the blanket. His instincts told him that tonight was only the beginning of something much larger. If the Valari assassins were after her, then her presence here put the entire outpost in danger. "Rest," he said finally. "We'll figure this out in the morning." But deep inside, Marcus knew there would be no peace come morning, because somewhere out there in the shadows of the galaxy, the assassins who poisoned her were already hunting again. Marcus Hale could not sleep. The hum of the outpost's night engines was a poor substitute for silence, and the quiet of his quarters felt heavy. Princess Elira lay on the bunk, shivering lightly under the thermal blanket he had wrapped around her. The soft rise and fall of her chest, the faint glow of her skin still tinged with silver, reminded him that he was no longer just a soldier. He had become a guardian. He glanced at the doorway. The hallway beyond was dark and silent, but he knew the danger lurking in the shadows. Valari assassins were trained to move like ghosts, to strike without warning, and if they found her here, it would be too late. "Lieutenant Hale," Elira whispered, her voice weak but steady. "Do not let them know I live." "Not yet," Marcus nodded. "I won't, but we need a plan. You're not going to survive on your own in the human sector if they find you." She lifted herself slightly on the bunk. "I am used to orders and betrayal. But humans, you are different." She hesitated, then added softly, "You care, not for rank, not for loyalty, but for life itself." Marcus felt a strange warmth at her words. He had heard many things about humans from Valari propaganda, reckless, violent, arrogant. But she was starting to see what he already knew. Humanity's strength was more than weapons or technology. "It was hard. Enough talk," he said finally. "We need to stabilize you and fast." He moved to the medkit again, checking the supplies. The toxin in her system was unusual, even for Valari biochemistry. Valari medicine relied on precise nanites and controlled biofields. But Marcus only had field-grade tools, human ingenuity and improvisation. He began preparing a makeshift detox treatment, mixing compounds carefully while keeping an eye on her vitals. "This might sting," he warned. "But it has to be done," Elira nodded, closing her eyes. "Do it, human. I trust you." The first touch of the chemical caused her to flinch, a sharp hiss escaping her lips. Marcus's hands were steady, moving with practiced precision. Every moment counted. The toxin was spreading slowly, and human medicine had to neutralize it before it caused permanent damage. Minutes passed. Sweat gathered on Marcus's forehead, his focus unbroken. Elira's breathing grew steadier, the faint glow of her skin dimming as the toxin reacted with the treatment. For the first time, she relaxed, allowing herself to rest fully against the bunk. When he finally sat back, exhausted but satisfied, Marcus studied her. She looked almost fragile, yet there was a dignity in the way she held herself, even weak and vulnerable. "Good," he said quietly. "You're stable. But we can't stay here forever. They'll come looking for you." Elira opened her eyes again, gazing at him with a mixture of fear and wonder. "I know, that is why I trusted you. Valari medicine could not save me. My own palace tried to kill me, and yet, here I am, in your hands, human. I do not understand why you care." Marcus shrugged, attempting casual calm. "Because no one deserves to die when they can be saved. Simple as that." She studied him, her glowing eyes reflecting the dim light. "Simple, yet your kind is capable of wonders. I have seen humans survive worlds that would kill a Valari instantly. You adapt. You endure. You protect, that is remarkable." Marcus smiled faintly. He had heard similar words in reports, but never spoken directly to him. It's what we do. That's humanity. Her lips curved in a weak smile. Then perhaps there is hope for my people. If we ever learn to see as humans do. The words hung in the air. Marcus knew she meant more than philosophy. Her people were rigid, hierarchical, and cruel to weakness. Humans survived by valuing life, even in the worst conditions. Perhaps this small act of mercy could bridge the gap between their worlds. Suddenly, a soft noise outside the room caught his attention. He froze, listening. The base's corridors were supposed to be empty at this hour. His instincts kicked in. Assassins or spies could have tracked her here. He motioned for Elira to stay down. "Stay quiet," he whispered. Moving silently, he approached the door and peeked through the small observation slit. Nothing, just shadows. But Marcus knew better than to trust silence. Volari assassins were patient, trained to wait for the perfect strike. Returning to her side, he crouched down. "You need to know. If they find you, we could be in serious trouble. Not just for you, but for everyone in this outpost. They'll kill anyone standing in their way." Elira's expression hardened slightly. "I am not afraid of death," she whispered. "I am afraid of betrayal. And I have already seen too much of that." Marcus nodded. He had witnessed betrayal too. Soldiers abandoning posts, allies turning on each other for personal gain. But this was different. This was interstellar politics, royal courts, and assassins. And now it involved him. He sighed. "Then we make our own plan. We hide you until we know it's safe." Her gaze softened. "And if it is never safe?" Marcus paused, then said simply, "Then we survive anyway. That is what humans do." She smiled faintly at that, a real smile that seemed to lighten the room. For a moment the fear faded, replaced by trust. She reached out, touching his arm lightly. "I have never felt this before. Not with my guards, not with my teachers. Never with anyone. But with you, human, I feel hope." Marcus swallowed. He wasn't used to emotional confessions, especially from royalty. Yet he understood. Hope was dangerous, but also necessary. Without it, survival was meaningless. He stood and moved to the wall terminal. Quietly, he accessed the outpost's supply manifests. He needed to find a secure place to hide her, somewhere no Volari spy could find. Storage bays, maintenance tunnels, abandoned cargo sections. Humans always had a backup plan, and tonight he would need every bit of ingenuity they had. "Listen," he said softly, returning to her side. "We'll move you somewhere safe in a few hours. There's a maintenance tunnel near the docking bay. No one goes there unless they're working on supplies. You'll be invisible." Elira nodded, trusting him completely. "I would follow you anywhere, human. Even into the darkness of your worlds." Marcus paused. That statement, innocent yet sincere, carried weight. She was willing to rely entirely on him. That was a responsibility he could not take lightly. Hours passed. He prepared rations, packed a medkit, and gathered supplies. Every movement was deliberate, every sound controlled. Outside, the outpost slept, unaware that its walls sheltered one of the most valuable and most hunted individuals in the galaxy. Finally, the moment came. Marcus helped Elira rise, careful of her weakened state. She leaned on him slightly, her trust palpable. Together, they moved quietly to the maintenance tunnel. Every step was measured, every corner checked. Humans thrived on adaptability, and Marcus had adapted to protect her. As they descended into the shadowed tunnel, Marcus whispered, "Once we're inside, we can rest. You're safe. For now." Elira glanced at him, her eyes softening. "Safe because of humans. Not your weapons, not your soldiers. You." Marcus smiled faintly, feeling the weight of the galaxy pressing around them. "That's what humans do. We survive. We protect. And sometimes, we do the impossible." The tunnel was dark, narrow, and safe. For the first time since the poison entered her system, Elira felt relief. For Marcus, the mission had changed. He was no longer just a soldier following orders. He was a human who could save a princess, and maybe, just maybe, change the way two civilizations saw each other. Outside, the base was still quiet. But shadows moved in the distance. Somewhere, unseen by either of them, Volari eyes watched, and the next challenge had already begun. Marcus knew this was only the start, because in a galaxy full of betrayal, only humans had the stubbornness, ingenuity, and heart to survive, and to protect those who could not protect themselves. The maintenance tunnel ended at the docking bay, a cold steel cavern lined with rows of ships and cargo containers. Marcus Hale guided Princess Illyra carefully, her fragile frame leaning slightly on him. Her silver glow, still faint, reflected across the polished floors, casting long shadows that danced like ghosts along the walls. "This way," Marcus whispered. "There's a small dropship in the far corner. Old but fast and reliable, enough to get us out of Valari-controlled space for a while." Illyra nodded, eyes wide as she took in the human technology. "Your ships, they are crude compared to the Valaris," she said softly. "But I can see the advantage. You rely on adaptability, not perfection." Marcus smiled faintly. "Crude, yes, but they survive where Valari ships would fail. He'll see." They reached the dropship, a small, compact craft nicked with scratches and dents from years of service. Marcus opened the hatch and helped her inside. She took a careful seat, still trembling slightly from the poison and exhaustion. "Ready?" he asked, strapping himself in. Illyra nodded. "As I will ever be." The engines roared to life, vibrations running through the hull. Marcus expertly navigated out of the docking bay, avoiding patrol lights and security drones. Every second outside was dangerous. The Valari assassins were trained to track even the faintest energy signatures. Once in open space, the stars stretched endlessly around them. The human dropship, small and unassuming, became their lifeline. Marcus set the course for a nearby asteroid belt, a perfect hiding place while they planned their next move. Illyra leaned back, her breathing still shaky. "I have never traveled in such a ship. Valari vessels are elegant, slow-moving, precise. Your kind fights chaos every day and wins. That is impressive." Marcus shrugged. "We adapt. We survive. That's humanity." The conversation fell silent, broken only by the hum of the engines. Then Illyra spoke again, softer this time. "Tell me, human, why did you choose to help me? You could have reported me. I am royalty." Marcus glanced at her. "Because no one deserves to die if they can be saved. Rank doesn't matter." "Life does." She studied him for a long moment. "Your words are strange, yet I feel them true. Humans value things differently, perhaps. That is why you thrive where Valari cannot." He grunted softly. "Survival is simple. Adapt, think fast, act faster. Protect those who cannot protect themselves. That's our advantage." Illyra's lips curved into a faint, tired smile. "And dangerous for those who underestimate you." Marcus's eyes narrowed as the radar pinged faintly. "We're not alone." The sensor lights blinked rapidly. Valari stealth scouts, small and fast, approaching from the outer rim. Marcus's hand went to the controls. "Hold on. This might get rough." Illyra gripped the seat, her silver skin glowing faintly in response to stress. "I am ready." The first attack came without warning, a bright streak of light that tore past their ship, narrowly missing the hull. Marcus swerved the dropship, using evasive maneuvers he had learned through years of piloting under dangerous conditions. The Valari scouts were fast, precise, but they did not expect human unpredictability. He zigzagged through the asteroid belt, narrowly avoiding colossal rocks and debris fields. Each turn, each quick maneuver was calculated, but unpredictable enough to throw off the pursuers. The dropship shuddered under the strain, systems warning of overload, but Marcus did not falter. Humans thrived on improvisation. The Valari did not. Illyra clung to the seat, watching with wide eyes as Marcus executed daring turns, often skimming dangerously close to massive asteroids. "Your methods, they are reckless," she exclaimed, her voice tense. "Reckless?" Marcus barked a short laugh. "I call it effective." She could not help but smile despite her fear. The human instinct for survival, raw and unpolished, was unlike anything she had experienced in the Valari court. There, every move was controlled, every decision calculated, but slow, rigid, and blind to chaos. Humans thrived in chaos. Humans thrived where Valari failed. Minutes passed like hours as they raced through the belt. Marcus guided the ship into a narrow canyon of floating rock, a natural maze that would hide them from scanners. The Valari scouts followed, but the confined space and Marcus's unpredictable maneuvers forced them to break formation, leaving the humans with a chance to escape. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, Marcus pushed the engines to maximum, blasting past the last of the scouts. They emerged into open space, unscathed but shaken. The stars stretched before them like a cold, empty ocean. Illyra exhaled deeply. I did not think humans could survive such a pursuit." Marcus smirked. "Survival is what we do. Improvisation is our weapon, and stubbornness is our armor. She regarded him thoughtfully. Your kind, your species, is full of contradictions. Fragile in body yet unbreakable in spirit. Weak yet capable of feats stronger than Valari technology. Marcus leaned back, letting the tension fade slightly. Welcome to humanity. We're good at surviving impossible odds, and we're better at protecting those who cannot protect themselves. The dropship continued its journey through uncharted space. Marcus plotted a course toward a distant, uninhabited planet, a place he had visited once during a survival exercise. There they could rest and recover before deciding their next move. During the quiet, Illyra spoke again, softer, almost like a confession. I feared humans before, as barbarians, unthinking, violent, but now I see strength, not just in arms but in heart, in mind, in will. That is remarkable. Marcus nodded. It's why humans survive. We adapt, we endure, we fight when we must. We protect when we can, and we never give up no matter the odds. She studied him, her eyes glowing faintly. And now, I am part of your world. At least for now, I trust you, Marcus Hale. That is something new. The human instinct to protect, to endure, to improvise. These were the traits that had allowed Marcus to carry her safely through Valari-controlled space. But he knew the danger was far from over. They had escaped the scouts, but Valari assassins were relentless, and they would not stop. Hours passed in tense silence. Marcus piloted the dropship with caution, scanning for any sign of pursuit. The planet they approached appeared as a tiny blue-green speck, orbiting a sun in a remote star system. It was uninhabited, harsh and dangerous, a perfect hiding place. As they descended through the atmosphere, turbulence rocked the ship. Marcus adjusted the thrusters with steady hands, guiding them toward a narrow canyon. The terrain below was rugged, filled with jagged cliffs and shallow craters. This is it, Marcus said. We land here, you rest. I'll scout the area. Humans survive on death worlds. Planets like this are nothing compared to what we've endured. Illyra's lips parted in surprise. Death worlds. You call this nothing? Marcus smiled wryly. You'll see. You might hate it, but it will teach you things no Valari classroom ever could. The dropship touched down with a controlled crash, kicking up dust and debris. Marcus quickly checked systems, then helped Illyra out. The air was thin, harsh, and alive with strange alien smells. She shivered but followed him, trusting him completely. I feel exposed, she whispered, but also safe. It is strange, Marcus chuckled softly. Humans survive where others die. That's all there is to it. As they settled in a small natural alcove, Marcus began preparing shelter from the harsh environment. He used his training, improvising tools and defenses from what little supplies they had. Illyra watched, fascinated, as the human instinct for survival turned raw terrain into a temporary fortress. Night fell over the alien world, stars twinkling faintly through a hazy sky. Illyra looked at Marcus, her expression softening. You fight in so many ways I did not expect. Not just with weapons, but with mind, with skill, with courage. Marcus shrugged. Humans survive by being clever, by thinking ahead, by protecting the weak. That is how we endure. And tonight, we both survived. She smiled faintly, eyes reflecting the alien stars. Then perhaps the galaxy has more hope than I believed, because if humans fight like this, perhaps even the impossible can be overcome. Marcus allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. They had escaped for now. But the galaxy was vast, dangerous, and full of enemies, and somewhere out there, the Valari assassins were regrouping, waiting for the chance to strike again. But tonight, a human soldier and an alien princess rested safely, their bond growing stronger, their trust unbroken. And Marcus Hale knew with quiet certainty that humanity's greatest weapon was not technology, nor numbers, nor speed. It was their will to survive, their stubbornness and their heart. The stars stretched endlessly above them, cold and indifferent, but Marcus and Illyra were alive, and that was all that mattered. The dropship touched down roughly on the surface of the jungle planet. Thick, misty air filled the cabin, carrying a heavy scent of vegetation and decay. Marcus Hale guided Princess Illyra carefully out of the ship. The jungle was alive with noises, distant roars, the rustle of enormous leaves, and the faint chirping of creatures they could not see. This is your idea of survival? Illyra asked, her voice tight with unease. She had regained some strength during the flight, but the alien world overwhelmed her senses. Marcus smiled faintly, brushing a hand across his uniform. Welcome to a death world. Humans thrive here. And tonight you're going to learn why. She looked around nervously. Towering plants with thick dark vines stretched to the sky, while strange glowing fungi littered the forest floor. Huge clawed footprints marked the mud, evidence of predators that humans would face without hesitation. Death worlds. Impossible to survive for Valari, she whispered. How do you humans endure this? Marcus gestured to the dropship. We make do with what we have. We adapt, we improvise, and we fight. That's how. The first step was shelter. Using his survival training, Marcus began cutting large leaves and vines to create a temporary canopy. He stacked logs to form a barrier against smaller predators and positioned traps made from sharpened stakes to protect against larger ones. Illyra watched, impressed despite her fear. You turn chaos into order, she said softly. In the Valari Palace, everything is controlled. Sterile, perfect. But it would never survive here. Marcus shrugged. Humans don't need perfection. We need results. And results are survival. As night fell, the jungle's true dangers revealed themselves. Strange insect-like creatures with glowing mandibles skittered over the ground. Large predators with thick scales prowled nearby, their eyes gleaming in the dim light. The sounds of snapping branches and low growls kept them alert. Marcus handed Illyra a simple blade. Keep this close. Don't be afraid. We fight if we have to. Her fingers gripped the weapon tightly. I will try. But I am not like you. I am trained to command, not to survive in this. You'll adapt, Marcus said with quiet confidence. Humans survive where others fail. Trust me. The first challenge came sooner than expected. A shadow moved across the clearing, massive and swift. Marcus spotted a predator, a quadruped with armored scales and glowing eyes, stalking them from the undergrowth. Stay behind me, he ordered. The creature lunged. Marcus rolled forward, slashing with the blade, then grabbed a vine and swung it to trip the predator. It fell heavily, roaring, but Marcus didn't hesitate. He pushed Illyra behind him and struck again, his human instincts honed for survival under pressure. Illyra's eyes widened. You do not fear them? Marcus grunted. Fear slows you down. Humans respect danger, but we do not let it control us. We survive by acting, not by freezing. After the predator retreated into the dense jungle, Marcus turned to her. See, survival isn't about strength. It's about thinking fast, acting fast, and staying alive. You've got to keep moving. Illyra nodded, slowly gaining confidence. She copied his movements, using her agility to dodge smaller predators and set minor traps. Marcus watched her, impressed. The Valari princess was learning human survival instincts faster than he expected. Hours passed. They moved deeper into the jungle, finding a small stream to drink from and fresh plants to eat. Marcus taught her to identify edible fruits, to avoid toxic ones, and to listen to the sounds of the forest to anticipate threats. You think like a human now, he said quietly, noticing her cautious, deliberate movements. That's good. That's how we survive here. She smiled faintly, exhaustion and determination mixed in her eyes. I never thought I could do this. In the palace, everything is controlled. I am trained to follow orders, not to survive. Then you're learning something new, Marcus said. Humans survive even in worlds like this. We make our own rules when the universe doesn't give us any. But danger never rested. As night deepened, the sounds of the jungle grew louder. Marcus's senses were alert. Valari assassins had advanced technology, and if they tracked them here, the predators wouldn't even be the biggest threat. Suddenly, a sharp crack echoed nearby. Marcus's instincts screamed. He grabbed Illyra and pushed her into the undergrowth. Shadows moved among the trees. Valari scouts, almost invisible in the dark, scanning for energy signatures. They found us, Marcus whispered. We need to move. Now. He led her through a narrow path between thick vines, using the jungle to conceal their heat signatures. Illyra followed, her earlier fear replaced with determination. She had learned from him. She was no longer the fragile princess who had stumbled into his quarters. She was an ally in survival. The scouts were fast, but Marcus had trained for this. Using a combination of deadfalls, tripwires, and careful observation, he led the scouts into traps. One fell into a pit hidden beneath leaves. Another triggered a net that hoisted it into the air. The humans' improvisation confused and delayed the Valari hunters. Elira watched in amazement. Your kind fights without advanced technology. You use your mind and the environment itself. Incredible, Marcus grunted. Brains over tech. That's how humans survive. We don't wait for perfection. We make it ourselves using whatever's around us. Hours passed. They finally found a natural alcove near the stream, surrounded by thick vines and elevated slightly from the jungle floor. Marcus reinforced it with logs and leaves, creating a temporary fortress. You did well, he said, glancing at Elira. Better than I expected. She smiled faintly, exhaustion evident on her face. I owe my life to you, human. Not just for your skills, but for your heart. You care when others would not. Marcus shook his head. Humans survive by protecting others. That's the way of our kind, and sometimes that's enough to change everything. Elira's eyes softened. Then perhaps I can learn more than survival. Perhaps I can learn to see as humans do. To value life, not just power. Marcus allowed himself a small smile. The Valari princess, trained in politics and deception, had learned more in these hours than most of her teachers could ever teach her. She had begun to understand human resilience, human ingenuity, and the human heart. Outside, the jungle was alive with danger. Predators circled and unseen eyes watched from the shadows. But Marcus and Elira rested, trusting each other, adapting together. In the quiet of the alien night, Marcus spoke softly, almost to himself. Humans survive where others fail. We endure, we fight, we protect. And sometimes, we do the impossible. Elira, lying beside him on the makeshift bedding, whispered, Then tonight, I see it, the strength of your people, the courage of humanity, and perhaps the galaxy has hope yet. Marcus nodded. It does, as long as humans fight and protect. It will. Somewhere deep in the jungle, movement shifted. Valari assassins were regrouping. But tonight the humans had survived, and tomorrow they would face whatever the galaxy sent next. Together. The alien jungle stretched endlessly beneath the twin moons, shrouded in mist and the faint glow of luminescent plants. Marcus Hale and Princess Elira had survived the first night, but the danger was far from over. Somewhere in the jungle, Valari assassins were still tracking them, and now they had a far greater threat, Elira's own people. She will not escape easily, Elira whispered, her voice tight with concern. Even if we survive the jungle, the Valari Empire will send warships. They will demand my return. By force, Marcus adjusted the makeshift strap of his weapon. Then we fight smart. Not just to survive the jungle, but to make sure they never take you without understanding what humans can do. Elira studied him, a faint smile on her tired face. You truly are remarkable, human. I have always believed my people were superior, stronger, more advanced, but your kind surprises me. Marcus nodded, scanning the jungle canopy. We thrive where others fail. We survive where others die. That's humanity. Hours later, a distant hum reached them. Marcus crouched, motioning for Elira to do the same. Through the thick foliage, they saw a Valari warship descending, small but deadly. Elite troops disembarked, moving with precision and purpose. The princess's expression hardened. They will kill anyone who stands in their way, including me if I resist. Marcus's jaw tightened. Not if we're ready. Humans survive impossible odds, and today we'll show them why. Using the jungle's natural cover, Marcus and Elira set traps along the anticipated paths of the approaching Valari soldiers. Sharp stakes, nets, and tripwires, basic human ingenuity, created a hidden gauntlet. Every move was calculated to slow and confuse the enemy, while minimizing risk to themselves. As the first Valari scout stepped into the clearing, it fell into a pit covered by vines. Another soldier tripped over a hidden wire, launching him into a net suspended from a tree. Marcus and Elira watched from the shadows, hearts pounding as human improvisation turned the jungle into a fortress. They are clever, Elira whispered. Far more resourceful than I imagined. Marcus smiled faintly. Cleverness is survival. That's how humans endure. The battle escalated. Valari troops moved faster, more disciplined, but they were unprepared for the unexpected. Marcus led Elira in guerrilla-style tactics, hitting from shadows, disappearing into thick undergrowth, and turning the jungle's own dangers against the intruders. Predators, stirred by movement and sound, attacked from the darkness, scattering the soldiers and amplifying the chaos. This is madness, Elira shouted, ducking a branch. We are outnumbered. Marcus shook his head. We are outsmarting them. That is how humans win. Hours passed in relentless skirmishes. Valari soldiers were formidable, but Marcus's tactics, the unpredictability, adaptability, and raw courage, kept them on the defensive. Illyra, now fully recovered and alert, participated actively, setting traps, misleading soldiers, and even using her knowledge of Valari strategy against them. Together, human and princess became a force the enemy could not anticipate. Eventually, the remaining soldiers retreated, their formation shattered. The warship above hovered, assessing the losses. Marcus and Illyra climbed a ridge to get a better view. They will not leave easily, she said, concern in her voice. They will return stronger. Marcus scanned the horizon. Let them come. Humans fight smarter than you expect, and if they underestimate us, they'll regret it. Days passed as they prepared for the inevitable confrontation. Marcus taught Illyra to fight alongside him. Not as a princess needing protection, but as an ally. She learned to move silently, set traps, and anticipate dangers using instincts and logic, blending Valari elegance with human practicality. Finally, the warship returned, larger this time, deploying more troops and armored vehicles. Marcus observed their deployment and noticed a weakness: predictable paths through the jungle, reliance on technology, and hesitation to act without orders. This is it, he said. We use everything we've learned. The jungle, the predators, our traps, and our minds. Humanity's greatest strength isn't weapons, it's our will to survive. Illyra nodded, determination flashing in her eyes. Then let us show them what humans can do. The battle began at dawn. Marcus and Illyra moved like shadows, striking strategically and disappearing into the foliage. Human ingenuity turned the dense jungle into a living weapon. Valari troops fell into traps, misled by false paths and confronted by predators they had ignored. Each victory was small but cumulative, shaking the confidence of the invaders. Illyra fought beside Marcus, using her knowledge of Valari strategy to anticipate enemy moves. You see, humans do not wait for perfection, she shouted over the chaos. We act, we survive. Marcus grinned. Exactly. That's humanity. Hours of relentless action culminated in a final standoff. The Valari warship hovered above, scanning for energy signatures while the remaining troops attempted to regroup. Marcus and Illyra moved to the clearing, confronting the leaders directly. This ends now, Marcus said, his voice carrying authority. Leave her alive or face the consequences of underestimating humans. Illyra stepped forward, her regal presence amplified by confidence gained through survival. I choose to stay with humans, she declared. Not because they are my subjects or allies, but because they saved me. They value life, courage, and honor. That is what the Valari Empire must understand. The Valari soldiers hesitated. They had never seen a princess defy protocol so boldly, backed by human resilience. The standoff lasted minutes, though it felt like hours. Finally, the Valari commander nodded reluctantly. You have shown strength and loyalty. We will withdraw for now. The troops retreated and the warship departed, leaving Marcus and Illyra standing in the clearing. Exhausted, bruised, but victorious, Illyra turned to Marcus, her silver glow softening. You humans are remarkable. Not in power or technology, but in spirit. You survive. You protect. You endure. You are extraordinary. Marcus smiled, feeling the weight of the journey lift slightly. That's what humans do. We fight impossible odds, protect those who cannot protect themselves, and survive. And sometimes, we do the impossible. Illyra nodded, gratitude and respect shining in her eyes. Then perhaps, the galaxy has hope. Because if humans fight like this, perhaps even the Valari Empire can learn to respect life, courage, and determination. Together, they returned to the dropship, ready to leave the jungle planet behind. The mission was far from over. But humanity had proven something undeniable. Raw determination, ingenuity, and courage could defy the odds even against the most advanced empire in the galaxy. Marcus Hale looked at Illyra, a faint grin on his face. You wanted to see how humans survive. Now you know, and the galaxy will remember it too. She smiled softly. Then thank you, Marcus Hale, for showing me humanity at its finest. And as the dropship lifted into the sky, leaving the hostile jungle behind, Marcus knew one truth more certain than ever. Humans were unstoppable, not because of technology or power, but because of heart. courage, and an unyielding will to survive. The stars stretched endlessly above them, cold and vast, yet humanity had carved a place in them, one impossible challenge at a time. In that moment, human and princess stood united, ready to face whatever the galaxy would throw next, and together they would show that no empire, no assassin, and no danger could overcome the will of a determined human.